Heidi Smith. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I have the distinct pleasure of talking about Wayne Erickson. So Wayne has been teaching at Whatcom for 17 years. He began his teaching career as an adjunct instructor in January 1996. In 2003, he was hired to teach full-time. Prior to teaching at Whatcom, as many of you know, Wayne was a veterinarian. So this is why most of his students refer to him as Doc. Doc has always been loved by his students, so much so that he has twice received the Faculty Excellence Award, once in 2001 as an adjunct, and then again in 2011 as a full-timer. Here are just a few comments his students have made. One student said, "Doc teaches in a way that requires participation from students, and if they are willing to come along on his journey, they will begin to discover that they can learn by exploring and teaching themselves." Another said, "I truly believe that my prep in his classes has greatly influenced my performance in the RN program." And yet another one said, "It is my opinion that he has exceeded what teaching means to most people, in that he has connected with his students in lasting ways that will serve them well on their way to whatever their dreams may be." These comments shed a little bit of light on how much his students have valued his instruction and how much future students will miss out on. Over the years, Wayne has primarily taught microbiology and anatomy and physiology. So when I asked his colleagues to share some memories with me, I got several interesting tidbits of information. The very first person I talked to said, "Well, you have heard about his pig sex lecture, haven't you?" To which I said, "No," and I wasn't really sure I wanted to know the details. I kindly reminded this individual that the Board of Trustees might be present today. There were other stories about parts of the anatomy that, quite frankly, I'm just a little too embarrassed to discuss or share at this time. It suffices to say that the prep lab created some very interesting labs, specimens, and visuals for Wayne in order to bring anatomy and physiology alive for his students. Now, I have been told that President Kathy has had the pleasure of observing his urine lab, so you might check with her on that. Now, on the other hand, I did hear some interesting stories about Wayne that I can share without getting too embarrassed. He is notorious for leaving things lying around and not remembering where he has left them. Once he misplaced a notebook and it was discovered months later on a refrigerator. Just last week, there was a case of slides left in the building support office marked obsolete. No one knew where the slides had come from, and they were nearly snapped up by Paul Frazee, who would have donated them to a local school. Oh, but wait, they were actually Wayne's, and no, he was not ready to part with them yet. Wayne also has a dry sense of humor. One never knows if he's being sarcastic or if he really means what he is saying. I recommend watching his eyes. Occasionally you can catch that twinkle that says he's just kidding around with you. I was also told that he likes to watch things rot away and has been known to put roadkill in a cage behind Culsham Hall to see how long it takes to, well, I guess rot. Now, that is only if he decides not to dissect it in class first. Of course, just this week, he came into my office with a live bat that he had found on his doorframe that morning. I later learned that he ended up taking it home and letting it live. So that shows that there is a softer side to Wayne as well. He has a sweet tooth a mile long, and our candy bowl in the office can attest to that, and volunteers at a homeless shelter at his church. Maybe he'll have more time during retirement to volunteer at the homeless shelter. Another person shared that they view him as a kind and gentle soul who's considerate of other people. He will always ask you how you are doing, and he really wants to know. Wayne has been an inspiration not only to his students, but also to his colleagues over the years and will be greatly missed by the science department. I believe Kim Reeves stated it very well when she said, "How do you sum up this man for all he has given to the college and community?" Thank you, Wayne. And Wayne, will you come forward, please? You want to say a few words?
Sure.
At Kim's suggestion about what I should say, I think I would like to go through a treatise on the pathophysiology of the influenza virus and how it attacks epithelial cells, particularly the H and the N antigens. I just want to say it's been just a great place to work. It really has. All of you have been just very special people here. You talk to people who work at places, and it's not very often they say that they just really like coming to work every morning. And that's the way it's been here. I'm going to miss you all. Thanks.
There goes the watch. All right, the next person that I get to introduce is Peter Gray, and he wasn't here earlier. Did he come in after we started? Okay, well, I'd like to just share a few things about Peter. Peter Gray has been an adjunct instructor in the math department at Whatcom for the past 16 years. It was interesting for me to discover that Peter started here winter quarter 1997, which just happens to be the same quarter I started. Prior to coming to Whatcom, he taught at a number of different institutions across the country, from New York to California and Washington. He also ran a company called Math Adventure here in Bellingham for 5 years, from 1989 to 1994, which had its home in an old railway car. Through Math Adventure, he sponsored a bridge building contest for students in the county. I happen to know this because my son actually won his first monetary prize from Peter. Over the years, Peter has taught a variety of math courses, but specialized primarily in our elementary algebra and intermediate algebra courses. Many students have commented on the comfortable learning environment that he provides in the classroom. His colleagues have described him as someone who connects with his students and talk about him as a good colleague. Molly Crocker said, "Peter Gray has been a mentor of mine since about 1989. She went on to say that his students coming into subsequent classes that I taught were always well prepared and spoke highly of him. Several people pointed me in the direction of a picture in LDC 214 with the caption, 'Who is this?' Well, wonder no more, it is Peter. I certainly did not recognize him, but I must say he wears the hippie look quite well." Peter has continued to stay active in researching the best ways for elementary students to learn math, and has worked hard at integrating math into other disciplines, especially history. He has authored a number of books, and a few years back facilitated a collaboration between students at Kendall Elementary School and a school in Russia, teaching them about math and history. I also hear he's currently working on a book about China. Peter will leave a gap in our afternoon scheduling, as this was a time frame he has always taught for us, which also filled a need for the math department. We wish Peter all the best in his retirement. Thank you. And I now have the pleasure of turning the mic over to Barry Maxwell.
Well, the next individual we're going to talk about is Kathy Hagman, who has been here for 33 years. And had an interesting time putting together the chronology of what all she's done. And I talked to different people to try and figure out this long career. And things didn't match up. You get one version from one person, and the HR record showed something else. And then I remembered that this is Watkins. We always try things, and if they work out, they get recorded. If they don't, we try something else. And Kathy was brought up here in 1980 to run something called the Linden Center. And I guess it worked out because officially in 1984, 4 years later, she's put down as being the director of it. And I guess back in those days, the College Without Walls thing, which is way before my time, but I've certainly heard plenty about it from some of those that have been here longer. Things were spread out more. So Kathy had this center up there that also included Blaine and a lot of the rest of the county. And it was almost like a little mini college from the people that worked up there, like Carrie Pereira and others told me about. They did their own local marketing, had to go to the high schools and recruit people. Outreach to the rest of the county, which for those of us that live in the county is pretty much everything outside of Bellingham city limits, I think. Ran their own classes, did their own registration, and the way it was described, had almost a full degree offering up there for everything except maybe math and science. And that's how the college ran things back then. Well, eventually, as you know, the campus was built, and they decided to centralize, so Kathy came, they closed down the Linden Center, and Kathy came back here to be the Director of Extended Education. There again, I got some different versions of what she actually did there. And what the titles were, too. And then finally back to being a full-time history and philosophy teacher in 2001, which is when I met Kathy. So I was only in on the last third of her career here. Although I noted in 1980, what was going on then? Well, I was down at Fort Lewis about that time, starting my Army career, and trying to figure out whether or not we were going to get deployed down to the Mount St. Helens area to deal with that. And then, I wonder if that had something to do with why Kathy came up here. I don't know. That wasn't one of the stories that I was given, but I'll have to check into that one. My time with Kathy was great. She knew everything. I was starting off as an adjunct and went to her for advice on, I'm going to teach the Middle East history class. I never taught a history class before. What do you do with history? And she, with her both education background, and history of religion background, was a great resource to me to get started here. And then again, when I was hired as a full-timer and thrown into the pool to manage political science, which had a challenging cast of characters back then, she was there as department chair to keep me out of trouble and the people that I got to deal with. And it got me started there with a good bunch of adjuncts. And yet again, when I was trying to figure out websites and Title III things, she was there as somebody that had already done it to help me take care of that as well. And I credit her. She wasn't the one that got me into the union. Her husband, Bob, was the one that claimed credit for that. But she was the one that kept me involved with encouragement and prodded me to get involved and do things in those early years as a relatively new person there. Humorous stories. We always try and collect those. And everybody I asked say, oh yeah, there are all sorts of funny things that somebody could tell you about Kathy, but they'd always refer me to somebody else. That was pretty interesting. Eventually I figured out that, despite my very capable hands and sensitive nature, that nobody wanted to see Kathy get embarrassed at this. So I'll just pretty much leave it for what my daughter had to say about her, who took Kathy as a history instructor. Greatest teacher that she ever had here. And Margot, for those of you that may know her, is not given to faint praise or glorious exaggeration either. So Kathy, thank you very much. And would you like to come up and say something?
Start by saying sorry. Now that reminds me of my brother who hated that word. And so he could hardly be persuaded except by the use of brute force ever to say it. And then he would say, sorry. Well, we'd say, you didn't mean it. But I really do mean it. And so I can think of quite a few things over all these many years. Probably that I irritated at least one person or annoyed them or ticked them off extremely. And so I'd like to say sorry to all those persons. And if April were here, I would say to April, I finally figured out the teaching station. I don't do well with change, especially when it involves electricity. So I went into my classroom one day, and this was the classroom, the usual thing that hadn't changed forever, LDC 211, and there was a weird machine on the desk with a sneaky-looking lamp. And I thought to myself, what is that? So I went to turn on the computer, nothing. I go, oh no, there are my 30 students. So what could I do? I ran out to April's office and said, that thing doesn't work. Get that off the desk. She goes, all you have to do is press power, and then it will work. I go, what is it? It's a document camera, and you never have to use it. Thank you. And so, thank you to everybody who helped me all through these many years. Thank you to all of you for being who you are. And thank you for being with me for everything. Because I raised my 3 wonderful daughters while I was here. 33 years was a long time. And my Bonnie was just a little toddler when we came. So we arrived in about January 2nd of 1980. When she was about 3 and a half, one of the coldest, longest, darkest days of the year. And I thought, whoa, where am I? You're in Linden. And so I didn't know what that was, except I soon found out that nothing was open on Sunday. So we were going to adjust, and adjust is what we did. And so those happy years went by, and then Kara came, and Kara's now in Arizona. She's a teacher too. And then our youngest, who came to Whatcom, my youngest Alyssa, came to Whatcom and graduated from here. And although sadly she had to leave us too soon, I want to thank you for being so kind to her and for helping her to have a happy life while she was here with us. So I also want to thank Laura for playing that beautiful song. And so I would just leave you with this blessing, which is kind of like saying, please accept this blessing. And it's just the old Irish blessing. And it goes like this, so you probably know it, even if you're not Irish. I'll say you're all Irish for now. And it goes, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warmly on your face and the rain fall gently on your fields.